Hey guys, welcome back to Restoration Made Simple. Today, I want to talk about different strategies that we need to be using when we set goals. I found as I worked with a lot of owners and a lot of different business developers or sales reps that this seems to be an area where, unfortunately, we either don't know enough or we don't set aside the time to do it, or the owner and the sales rep don't communicate effectively between each other as far as what expectations are. So let's kind of dive into everything here about what is necessary if you're going to have a goal setting strategy meeting. Before you do this, there's a couple things that I think are very important that you need to go over and that you need to have as far as information goes. So make sure before you have this meeting that this is some of the details and the information that either you as an owner or the sales developer should have with them when you go over this. Okay. So this is a checklist that I've created. Now, this should really be implemented or used for existing companies. If you're a brand new company, obviously some of these things are not going to apply. However, the principle is still the same, and it's a good format or a good opportunity to try to follow a checklist of things. So to kind of dive into everything, the first thing, well, not the first, but one of the important things that you need is you need to be looking at your sales for the prior year. So everybody asks me, well, why do I need to know what the sales are for the prior year? And the reason you need to know that is because it's going to help set the foundation of what is possible and what is realistic for the upcoming year. A lot of times I'll have a sales developer who will come to me and he'll go, hey, Nate, I plan on bringing in, 5 million this year. And I'll ask them what the total sales for the company was for the prior year. And they'll go, oh, it was 6 million. Well, obviously that's not realistic, simply due to the fact that the company was probably bringing in a lot of that other business as well. So if you can get a printout of all of your total sales for the prior year, that's going to be really important as you make goals for the new year. One of the other things that you need to get is you need to know how many leads you had for the prior year. So why do we need to know what our leads are? Well, once again, that's going to be able to help you to reverse engineer your numbering system, because you're going to be able to figure out how many leads you had from the prior year and what the number of leads equaled as far as total sales goes. So if you had $1 million in sales last year and you had 500 leads, then obviously you'd be able to do the math to go, okay, if I want to jump up to 2 million, then I will probably need 1,000 leads instead of 500. So it's going to give you a good idea of where your closing ratio is and how effective you guys are at selling the job. Third thing that you need is how many jobs were sold. So once you see the total number of leads and you see how many jobs were sold, you're going to know what the close ratio is for the company. Let's say you're at a 50% close ratio. As you make your numbers for the new year, that's going to be the number that you're going to calculate to be able to make goals for the new year. Now, if you decide that you want to increase your close ratio, then obviously you could say, hey, we're at 50%. We want to bump that up to 60%. So if we have a 60% close ratio, how many leads and sales would we need in order to get to that number? One of the next things you need to know is the referral sources. Where are these jobs coming from? Is it plumbers? Is it the internet? Is it property managers? Is it insurance agents? You want to see the breakdown of every single job that you have gotten for the prior year. Now, keep in mind, this is going to be a really good exercise for you guys as well, because it might let you know that your CRM is going to need some updating or some cleaning up, or it might let you know that you guys are not using the CRM as effectively as you should. I know whenever I went through this process with my sales reps, there was always things where we're going, how come this doesn't have a lead source? Or how come the office didn't do this, right? So not only is this going to help you with creating your goals for revenue, but it's probably going to open your eyes up to go, you know what? We really need to be tracking our referral sources so that you can make educated guesses for where you want to go for the following year. Next item that's important is you need to know what the company job average is. So if we're talking about mitigation, is your job average 3K? Is it 4K? Is it 5K? What is that job average? And the reason why you have to know this is if you're trying to set a revenue goal, obviously you've got to be able to figure out and go, okay, if the company average is 5,000 and you're trying to get to a certain number, then you would be able to divide that number to figure out how many jobs you actually have to bring in order to get to that total revenue goal that you're looking for. One thing I did, and I know a lot of my competitors do not do this, but you want to know who your active clients are and your inactive clients. So when I would sit down with my business developers, we actually would go through the last 2 years of jobs that had come in, and we would compare those 2 years to see what clients were sending us work, and then to look at old clients that used to be sending work but are no longer sending us work. So let me say that one more time. We'd have 2 years of referral sources. We would look at it and we would go, which ones are still sending us work and which ones have we stopped getting work from? Once you see who's not sending you work, then we would put that client under the what we would call reactivate, the reactivate category. And we would always set a goal of how many do we want to reactivate out of the ones that we've lost. Next thing that you need to focus on is the different verticals that are going to be in your market. So make a list of the different potential referral sources that you can get from. Is that plumbers? Is that property managers? Is that third-party administrators? Whatever it might be, make a list of those, because as you create your goals for the new year, you need to know what referral sources are actually available to you to be able to market to. I have some clients that live in very small areas. They really don't have commercial properties. They don't have a lot of retail. They don't have the big high rises. So in a case like that, that's not going to be a vertical that they're going to target. But they might have plumbers. They might have the insurance agents and that type of thing. The other item, and I would say many of us fell in this, and I at one point was not good at this either, was creating a marketing budget. Okay, what was your budget for the prior year, and what is your marketing budget going to be for the upcoming year? The great thing about creating a marketing budget, I don't know if you guys are like what I experienced, but it seems like every time I go visit a property manager or an insurance agent, they'd go, hey, Nate, we've got a golf tournament coming up, or hey, we have a client appreciation event coming up. And I get asked all the time to donate money. And sometimes we definitely wanted to. And there's other times when it's like, oh, it seems like the only thing my clients want from me is for me to donate money. So by having a marketing budget, it makes it really easy that when these clients are asking you if you're going to donate, the answer should be pretty simple to go, hey, we've got funds set aside for this, or hey, you know what, we already created our marketing budget, hit me up next year. It gives you a good excuse and a good reason for whichever decision you take. Now, the next one might seem a little bit strange as well, but I ask people to write down who is your competition. And the question they ask me is, well, why do I need to know what my competition is if I'm going to create goals for the upcoming year? I always want to know who my competition was. It's extremely important to know what my competitors are offering, what they're doing, if they have a unique selling proposition that I don't have. So I always wanted to know and have my ears to the ground to know what it is that they were doing or offering. So if I went into my insurance agents, if I knew what my competitor was offering, I knew that I was either going to offer something different, something better, or I could talk about what my competitor was offering and then say, hey, what is it that you like to see? What's important to you? And then I could cater my sales pitch around what it was that they were looking for. Now, I will say just a little hint I would give you, in whatever industry you're marketing to, make sure you have a few good friends that you can always go to and say, hey, I know you're getting hit up by other disaster companies. What are their sales pitches? What are they offering you? What is it that they're doing, right? So make sure you always have a friend that can kind of give you the down low, because that's going to help you as you go try to find new accounts to be able to know what you're up against. And then last but not least is you need to know what the total revenue of your company was. So if you were 10 million the year prior, then what is the goal? Is it 11 million? Is it 12 million? And once you figure out what that total sales number is, then we'll be able to come over to all these others that we just talked about, and you'll be able to put the numbers in the calculator and figure out where you've got to be in order to hit the New Year's goal. So hopefully that makes sense. Definitely you guys can take a screenshot of this or whatever, but this would be the checklist that I would definitely say you need to go through before you actually go into the goal setting. So now let's kind of dive into how to create the goals. Okay, there's 3 or 4 things that are very important if you're going to do goal setting, is to be able to understand and know, what are those categories. So the first thing is make sure your goals are specific. Don't just say, oh, I want to grow my customer base, or I want to increase my sales. One of my clients had told me, he says, Nate, I want to add 3 more plumbers. Well, that was great. And I'm glad that he said 3 more plumbers. And I think it's fantastic. But the question is, if you have those 3 plumbers, do you know how you're going to do it? Do you know which 3 plumbers it is that you're trying to get? Do you have a target marketing plan for those plumbers as to what you're going to present to them if you're able to get in and give your sales pitch? So make sure you're being specific. Don't just say you want to grow your customer base or increase your sales revenue. Explain how you plan to accomplish it. For example, you can say, we're going to increase our core products revenue using a consultative sales approach. That's just one example. To me, I would list the market you want to get into. I would come up with a marketing plan for it, and then I'd list which companies those are that you want to get in with, so that it's very specific and very detailed. The next one is, and a lot of people forget this one, is it's got to be measurable. If you're going to be creating goals, it needs to be something where you can check a box and go, yep, we did this. Yep, we did this. You have to have some type of tracking in place. So define the exact number that you're shooting for, 1 million, so that you can benchmark your performance and have your tools and software set up to track your progress toward the goal. Tracking is probably one of the most important things, and I will say in the restoration industry, it's really quite sad to know that the majority of the sales reps that I work with do not have a tracking system in place. Make sure you have a system in place. And I don't care if it's super simple, if it's something that just shows how many activities you did in a week, how many visits you did in a week, to who those visits were. It could be something as simple as an Excel spreadsheet if you're not using a CRM, or if you have a CRM, it should be able to pull those activities for you. But just make sure you have something that breaks down all of your activities, all of your visits, all of your leads, your bids, and your sales. Okay, so this is the one that gets a little bit dicey if you're talking to the owner and you're talking to the sales rep, because the owner might say, hey, I want you to have a sales goal of this. And you might be thinking, man, that's really high. I don't think I can hit that. So make sure it's something that is achievable. While stretch goals are a great way to push yourself and your employees, you don't want to set objectives that are impossible to achieve. If you only brought in 700,000 in revenue last year, you shouldn't set a goal to bring in 5 million this year, right? We want to make sure it's achievable. Now, I think it's okay to do a little bit of a stretch goal because we always need to be pushed, but make sure the stretch goal is within reason of what your company can actually do. All right, so this kind of goes along with the achievable. Your goals need to be realistic. They need to fit your current situation. So if you say, hey, you know what, we're going to introduce Rebuild this year to our company, and I want to bring in 5 million, well, that's probably not realistic because you've never done Rebuild before, right? So make sure that you're being realistic as you're creating these goals of what can really happen given your current situation with the company and what you hope to be able to deliver in the upcoming year. Okay, so the other one, time-based goals. When you set your sales goals, you need to make sure there's a finish line, right? Otherwise, you can wind up trotting through everything for years without much change in growth. In the case of sales goals, quarterly and yearly markers are the easiest to set since they naturally flow with the fiscal year. So make sure as you're doing these goals that at least, I would say at a bare minimum, quarterly. However, I can say with my sales reps, we were going over them monthly because that's how they would get paid their commissions, was on at the end of the month. So make sure that you're tracking it, make sure that it's time-based, and make sure that whoever your sales team is, that you're actually paying them if they're on a commission type program in a regular fashion, because if you don't pay them, they're going to lose interest and they probably will start looking for another job. So make sure you as a manager or as an owner that you are being timely in getting your sales reps paid. All right. So that's everything as far as the goals goes. I hope that gives you guys a few tips, a few pointers on something like that. Once again, if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And thanks for listening to the Restoration Made Simple goal setting.